The CIA once ran an experiment where they tried to look at Mars, not in the present, but roughly 1 million years in the past. And the strange part isn't just what was described, it's that this session actually exists. Back in 1984, as part of a broader effort to explore remote viewing, a subject was given a set of coordinates without being told what they were looking at. Only after the session began was the target revealed. Mars, 1 million years before present. Many people believe the viewer involved was Joseph McMoneagle, one of the primary remote viewers used in the US government Stargate program. Whether it was him or not, the transcript itself remains one of the more unusual documents to come out of that era. At the time, this wasn't treated like science fiction. Remote viewing was being explored as a potential intelligence tool, something that could allow information to be gathered without physical presence. It was part of a broader Cold War mindset where even the most unconventional ideas were considered worth testing. And whether it worked or not, at some level, they believed it was possible enough to try. According to the session, what was described doesn't resemble the Mars we think of today. The viewer reported massive megalithic structures, pyramid-like in shape, with smooth surfaces and enormous scale. They didn't feel decorative or symbolic. They felt functional, almost as if they had been built to withstand something extreme. The environment itself was described as hostile. There were violent storms, dark skies, and a sense that the atmosphere was deteriorating. It didn't come across as a dead planet. It felt like one that was in the process of collapsing. And then, there were the inhabitants, tall, thin beings described as roughly twice the size of humans. They weren't thriving, they were surviving. There was a sense that they were trapped, waiting, almost aware that their world was coming to an end. At one point, the viewer described them as being in a kind of suspended state, like a sunken dream, while others had already left in search of a new place to go. There's even a moment in the session where the viewer focuses on what appears to be a large impact site, something described almost like a massive basin or crater stretching across the surface. And throughout all of it, there's this underlying impression that stands out more than anything else. This wasn't just a distant world being observed. It was a civilization at the edge of extinction. What makes this even stranger is that years before this session ever took place, NASA had already photographed a region on Mars known as Cydonia. Images from the Viking 1 orbiter in 1976 showed formations that, at the time, sparked a lot of attention, most famously what appeared to be a massive face-like structure along with nearby shapes that some believed resembled pyramids. Later, higher resolution images would suggest those formations were simply natural features, light, shadow, and perspective creating something that looked familiar from a distance. But Cydonia isn't the only place on Mars that sparked this kind of a reaction. Over the years, images sent back by orbiters and rovers have shown formations that, at first glance, look familiar. Things that resemble faces, doorways, even animals. There was a rock that people said looked like a skull. Another formation that resembled a carved entrance, almost like something built in the side of a hill. More recently, images circulated of a shape that looked almost like a turtle sitting on the surface. And every time something like this appears, the explanation tends to follow the same line: light, shadow, erosion. A phenomenon known as pareidolia, where the human brain tries to find patterns in random shapes. And scientifically, that makes sense. Mars is a planet shaped by wind, dust, and time. Given enough of that, you're going to end up with formations that just happen to resemble something we recognize. But even knowing that, it doesn't really stop the question from coming up. Why does it keep happening? And when you look at something like that 1984 session, it doesn't exist in isolation anymore. Now it's sitting alongside decades of images, interpretations, and patterns that people keep noticing. And even if each one has an explanation on its own, together they still leave something behind. A question that doesn't fully go away. Why was the CIA even attempting something like this in the first place? This wasn't about exploration in the traditional sense. It wasn't a rover, or a satellite, or a probe. It was an attempt to observe something that no one could physically reach, which means at some level they believed it was possible. Possible to perceive distant places, possible to move beyond time, or at the very least, possible enough to try. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was imagination shaped by expectation. Or maybe it was an experiment that brushed up against something we still don't fully understand. And if that's the case, then the strangest part of all of this isn't what was seen on Mars. It's the fact that someone thought it was worth looking in the first place. This is Joshua Tree Encounters, where UFOs, cryptids, and strangeness collide.